Today we're going to be putting an intake in this Solstice GXP. See, I got this intake off Amazon. It's basically an eBay intake. I know, you know, they're not very good, but there was a filter shortage apparently with DDM Works who I was going to go with, and I wanted the intake for my next autocross event, so figured I'd give this one a shot. I've heard people on the forums modding them to, you know, to be better. So once we throw it on, we'll take a look, see how we can improve it and how it sounds. So first step, there's these clips all the way around the stock intake box. I already went ahead and started removing them. So that's the first step. And then next step would be to remove this hose clamp and this hose clamp right here that connects to the turbo. So after you do that, you're gonna want to disconnect the MAF sensor. There's a tab on this side. You can just push it down and pull it out. And then this is already loose, so this should just pop out. And this will also just slide out from here. You might have to give it a little wiggle, but it'll come out. Okay, so at this point, we got the stock intake tube and the top of the box out. Now you want to be careful because there's the MAF sensor on here. So we're going to remove that in a second. It's just two Phillips head screws. And at this point, you could check if there's any play in your turbo by, you know, just coming in here and feeling if it has any play. And you could also check to see if there's any oil in your intake. A little bit of, you know, liquid around the seal is fine, but anywhere else, you know, you might want to look further into that, but this seems pretty clean, so that's good. Okay, so I took out the two Phillips head screws on here. Now we have the MAF sensor out. You can see it gets pretty dirty just from any unfiltered air that goes through there. So what I'd recommend is spraying this with some MAF sensor cleaner, which I'll show in a second. You know, it'll help to not get you any check engine lights or any misfires, anything like that. So the product I'm going to use to clean it is this CRC mass airflow sensor cleaner. It's meant for this, and I would only use a product like this because this is very sensitive. This hot wire you see in there, like right around there, that's very sensitive, so you don't want to touch anything on that. The directions say to spray 10 to 15 sprays, and you know, it dries very quickly, so just make sure it's dry before you put it back in. I'm gonna spray it in now and we'll see how it looks right after. And you could already see the difference here. I didn't even know that was red. It was all caked up all over. You can see I sprayed it all around. It's drying right now, but this was all super caked up with dirt and grime, but the car should be running much better now with this all cleaned up. So while that's drying, we could go ahead and continue with the disassembly of the stock box. So at this point, this filter will just pop right off. And to remove it, there are some screws. You can see this one broke off when I was doing this charge pipe install. This one's aftermarket. That one's OEM. You could see the difference. The stock ones were flattened to fit better. This is a Fujita charge pipe, so it flows better. So to get this off, you need a Torx bit. In this case, since my aftermarket pipes don't need the bracket that's attached to them, I'm just going to end up removing this whole thing, which is just holding the intake at this point. But I'll show you both methods in case you have the stock intake tubes, the charge pipes. Okay, so I realized there's a lot easier way to take this out. So instead of removing this bracket, I realized that it's actually a support for the radiator right down here. It helps to hold it in place and line it up. And also to get to that bolt straight down, it's at an angle right under the charge pipe. So if you're not planning to change your charge pipe at the same time, it's a little difficult. So what I found is all that's holding it is a rubber bushing, which you can see I already popped it out of. That bushing right there. So if you just stick a flathead screwdriver under, as so, and then just pry up a little bit, you know, pry it up gently, make sure not to crack the plastic, but Just pry it up just like that and it'll come right out. So after you remove those two Torx bits, you come around to the front of the car and there's just one more bolt down here. It's a 10 milliliter bolt, and you can see it's part of the plastic here that's holding it down. And after you take this one out, which I already loosened it, you can see the whole box is ready to come out with the other two screws out. So at this point, you're ready to pull it out. You just have to wiggle it a little bit down there. You just have to make sure that clears the hood. You might have to lower the hood a little bit to pull it out, but at that point, you could just pull it out right at an angle, and it will come out. So as you can see, it's a little difficult to remove, but you just have to wiggle it a little bit, it'll come right out. And now you can see all this dirt. So I'm gonna just clean this up before we go ahead and throw the new one in. Have it nice and clean. Okay, so now that the box is out and it's relatively clean, the first step would be to throw this reducer coupler on that comes with the kit. I decided to put the OEM hose clamp on it because I figured it's probably better quality than the ones that came with the intake, so I'm gonna just end up using these. So the first thing is to throw this on. After you throw that one on, this is the next pipe. It comes with this fitting, which you would normally route your PCV hose to, and it brings this extra hose to route it right to your PCV valve. But in this case, I have my PCV valve vented to help with carbon deposits not coming in the engine, so not recirculating back into the engine. So I got this cap. It's just a rubber cap from AutoZone, and it's just gonna come right on here, and then I'm gonna hose clamp it on just to make sure it's extra tight, but it should be good with these ridges. It's not gonna fall out of there, and that'll let me throw it on without having to use that hose. Okay, so I ended up taking this coupler back off. I found it a lot easier to mount this pipe off the car, so you could tighten these all the way. Everything else I'd put on loosely on the car just to make sure everything lines up how you want it. But right here, this is the first pipe to go on, and I'm gonna throw this on now, and then we'll figure out how the rest goes. So put the pipe in. I just slide right in. This next pipe I just put up to test fit, but you just pop it in, and now we're gonna go work on the other pipe. Okay, so we're back in the garage. You got the clean mass airflow sensor right here. I just mounted this filter on the side. The side that this is closest to, you don't want the filter. So you see there's not much room here, and there's a lot more room here. You want to put the filter on this side. So, and when you put the MAF sensor in, you want to make sure that this opening, see where the hot wire is facing the filter. So it's going to go in just like this. And then you're just going to screw it in. Okay, so I ended up throwing this pipe on. Nothing's tight yet, so I could still move everything around. For the bracket situation, it came with a bracket that you stick in the hose clamp. So this one right here, that one goes right into the hose clamp. And I just made this thing with a couple of washers. It's just gonna come up here. And when I'm ready to put the screw in, I'm gonna lift this up and line them up and then put the screw in so that it's elevated off the plastic that it's touching down there. But after that, I'll continue. Okay, so this is everything fully installed. This is the bracket I made with stuff they supplied. I had to add a screw and a washer, but besides that, everything was included. Gonna start it up, get some sound clips, and should be good to go.